Today we're going to learn how to mess with the material editor in Lens Studio. Let's get started. Hey there everyone. Today we're going to continue on our series of the Maker's Guide to move on from our previous project in Lens Studio of simply applying a texture and or color to a material and or an object through the means of a shader, and actually continue on with that trend through the template that is provided to us through Lens Studio. Here you see that they have a template specifically for Material Editor, and today we'll be utilizing that to cover the broader concepts and ideas that come with the Material Editor that we jumped into in specifics and pure examples in the previous episode. Today, I'd like to clear up some concepts as well as bring some new concepts into light that will help you better understand how the Material Editor works as well as what you can accomplish with it. So, with that, let's go ahead and move into our setup for today's video. Though I discussed the setup for today, really all we're going to need to do is load in this preloaded project that Lens Studio provides for us today. However, to introduce you to the setup, I'll give you a run through of what exactly we're looking at, as well as what we'll be able to manipulate as a basis for the understanding of what is in this project. So, if we just give it a second to load and hopefully not have it crash, we'll be introduced to this little playground of different objects. Okay, there we go. And a bit of a view of what sort of things you can create within the Material Editor. So, to begin, we'll go ahead and look at our 2D scene. And within our 2D scene, we'll notice that we have a couple of different examples showing what we can really accomplish with the shaders within the world of the Material Editor in Lens Studio. So, to start off, we'll see that we have a couple of different things going on to begin with. We have some animations, some transparencies going on. We have some diffusion of light, we have some color variation and or gradients, some luminosity on certain products as well, how the light shines off of something, which is actually diffusion as well. But then we find that we have metallics, we have glossiness for certain objects, different textures. You can see that there's almost a gritty texture on top of this sushi as well. Here I'm actually not too sure what we're looking at. Looks like it's bugging out because it's supposed to look like our little guy here filling up and down as the transparency transitions up and down the body, which I think is really just trying to showcase how you can mess with the transparencies within the shader. But with that, let's go ahead and actually get into the specifics of each one of these materials and basis on how we can create each one of these. So, to get started with all of these different materials that we have available through this template, which is, in my opinion, a lot better than the single object we were working with previously, we have all of our examples over here, nicely organized within our resources panel. So, here we can see that the first example we'll be looking at is actually refraction. So what's really going on in this instance is a case where we're having the light and or texture that comes in to the object be based on a texture on the outside world. So, for example, we see our refraction in the same way that you would warp the image of something by looking through a clear crystal. If you've ever looked through a telescope or glasses, you're actually messing with the science of refraction when you're looking through a material to realign the light in a certain way and or shape. So really what's going on with the refraction in this material right here is a representation of the things around it. So if we actually go in and look at the material editor, we'll see that we have all these different options, these parameters, you would say, that affect how this refraction will work. Here we'll see that we have all of these inputs coming directly into a tile by the name of refraction that takes into account things like thickness, intensity, chromatic aberration, which is just a fancy way of saying the way light shifts to change the shift of color. Kind of like you can see around the top or outer part of the face here in this preview example right here. And that's actually why you see her lips here, which is kind of odd in my opinion. Outside of that, we also have the darkening, the exponent, and the IOR, which is actually I'm not something too familiar with. But with that being the case, we can also see that our PBR, and or the thing that allows us to control how the light bounces off of things based on the setting of the scene, all eventually coalesce into our shader directly affecting our material. Alongside that, we have our hologram, over here, some jello, which I'm sure is here to show off how you can make something bouncy and how you can change the textures and or shaders of things based on animations and or changes in the 3D model. We'll also have melting, iridescence, the soap bubble over here on the top right. I'm assuming the iridescence is talking about this almost metal looking material over here, almost as if the metal were oily. And here we have the salmon, which I'm sure was used to showcase the types of textures and or normal mapping you can place on top of a texture as well. Because really, with the material editor, we can take advantage and blend multiple things together through this override, and actually what we'll do is take a little tour into all of the different things that we have available to mess with within the realm of the material editor. So with what we have available in the documentation provided by Snapchat, we can really find a couple of simple things just that we can utilize to make things complex, really. But what we really want to focus on with the material editor is just the simple logic that can be brought over from programming, and if you don't have a programming background, how to utilize what is available through Lens Studio to make whatever you could really imagine. Now, in the documentation for Lens Studio, they mention the fact that really the best practice, if you aren't experienced with shaders, being to take these materials that are provided directly through the program and to apply and directly manipulate them as you please to better create something that you'd like to mess around with. So what I'll do in our example to showcase just a bit better this refraction at least, we'll go ahead and modify the materials here. So I'll go ahead and choose my refraction material. And here, once I have refraction selected within my settings, I can adjust the global parameters before I mess with anything within the material editor. So here, we'll actually get to see the direct results of what happens when we mess with things like the thickness of the glass. Now, you'll see over here in our preview window, and I'll go ahead and make this just a bit larger for us to be able to see everything. We'll see that all of a sudden things get blurred, kind of like when you wear somebody's thick glasses if you don't wear glasses yourself, or if someone has a stronger prescription than you. Really, all that's happening with those glasses is a change in the thickness of them. So with this, we can control how fine the details of our refractions are. Here, we can also directly see the input and output of the chromatic aberration that I was discussing earlier. If I go ahead and set this down, we see that hue change and or oily texture that came as a result of the aberration is now gone, both here, and we can see the face of the woman here with her lips stretched all the way across because the texture isn't properly mapped. But that's not our worry, so we'll go ahead and place this back to create a sense of a blurry feeling, or kind of like what you would see through a piece of quartz or really polished rock. With that, we also have the intensity, which more than anything warps how much it zooms and or zooms out of the in accordance to the light, as well as a color tint. So let's say we wanted the glass to be blue. With that, let's see if my program doesn't crash. We'll see a slight shift in the color, more so the hue than anything else. And like that, we have blue glass. So, like I was saying earlier, this template is a great place to start, and you can actually directly import the materials from this template into any project you can think of and just apply these examples of shaders and or textures directly to your projects and mess with them from there. However, I'd like to also in this series continue on with these shaders to show you, give you a couple examples, which in the next episode we'll directly do. So for the next episode, we'll go ahead and use 3 of these materials in order to create a filter that has an actual use case. So with that, we'll give ourselves a challenge. But with that being the case, we'll be ending the video for today as we explored around with what's available within the material editor, what we can edit, and also just provide a brief overview of what we can actually add into the material editor and what we can edit in the next couple of episodes as well. There's a lot to dig through here. We'll try and keep it as surface level as possible, but until we have the time to cover those things, we'll have to take another week to explore these options. So until then, have a nice week.